Massive school walkouts growing from Florida students protesting Don't Say Gay. Watch this. Of course, the point of that whole law is so that not for these kids not to say gay, but so the kids 4 years behind them in 8th grade, 6th grade, 5th grade right now don't have the courage to do what those were doing. Now, last night, Queer News Tonight reported on statewide walkouts that occurred last Thursday here in Florida to protest the Don't Say Gay bill. Yesterday, students continued to protest with even more walkouts. Winter Park High School in Central Florida saw one such walkout with more than 500 students leaving class at 9 a.m. The walkout was organized by juniors Will Larkin and Maddi Zornek. Larkins told CNN, quote, "We wanted to show our government that this isn't going to stop. There were walkouts all last week. This is going to continue. If this passes, there will be protests everywhere. We wanted to get the attention of our representatives, our senators, because the point is to show them that we are the ones in power. The people are the ones in power, and what they're doing doesn't represent us, especially marginalized groups." Watch this.
Denise Soufrine, gay and a teacher for 34 years.
We do not introduce the topic of sexuality to young children.
If a child is going through some questions about their sexuality and they're afraid to talk to their mom or dad, is that where then you can answer questions?
I could answer questions for them.
But if this law passes?
If this law passes, I would not be able to answer any questions for them.
And the problem with that?
The child would feel that there is something wrong with them.
You know, not all schools are supportive. The schools down here are, I talked with a teacher last night at a rally at Esplanade Park in downtown Fort Lauderdale who said she knows no teachers or administrators that are in favor of this law. However, up in Daytona Beach at rallies last week, one student who helped organize it, we even talked about him on the show last week as one of the organizers, has been suspended indefinitely. Not for organizing the rally, but for handing out pride flags. He handed out 200 pride flags after being told right before the rally, don't do it, for whatever reason. I'm sure that teachers would not have gone around collecting the American flags were their school on Independence Day or Memorial Day or something like that. So I think there are a lot of teachers that we're not recognizing, the ones that want this, the ones that let them off the hook of having to pretend to be supportive, because there's a lot of them out there, especially in these redder, sparsely populated counties.
How horrible for them. How horrible for these teachers that, you know, are willing or not willing to give up their livelihood for these children, because there are teachers standing there side by side with some of these students, you know, like, screw it. Okay, whatever you're going to do to me, you're going to do to me. Maybe I'll find another job. This maybe is not what I should be doing with my life, you know?
Well, I mean, and that's education, though, in Florida is constantly under attack. Teachers are constantly under attack because in general, education is progressive and it doesn't conform to this kind of regressive thought process that the Florida government is entrenched in.
That's a bullseye.
And one of the I lost my thought.
One of the things that I was going to say is I want to repeat their names that organized this walkout yesterday at Winter Park High School. I went to UCF. I know Winter Park High School well. Will Larkins and Maddi Zornek. You're heroes. In my opinion, you're a hero. You're a hero to your fellow students at Winter Park. You're a hero to your community of Winter Park and Orlando, and you're a hero here at Queer News Tonight. It's interesting as I watched this protest yesterday, I watched a lot more video, lots of conversation. And the national and international press covered this protest closely. You know what it reminded me of, and interesting, and I just make a connection that seems so true to me. When Vladimir Putin, over the last 2 months, planned on his invasion in Ukraine, one of his premises was that when he was going to save Ukrainians from genocide and from Nazis that were trying to control them, and the water wasn't a perfect temperature of 68, and all of the other ridiculousness that Putin had on justifying his invasion, which was ultimately just toxic masculinity, his premise was that Ukrainians were going to roll over. And he made the decision for the invasion and then just rolled in. And now 2 weeks later, whether we don't hear it from his mouth, but there has to be shock. Between 5,000 and 10,000 Russian soldiers are dead. There is a complete fight going on in Ukraine. And you know who it is? First off, we admire the president, Zelensky, and what we're seeing from him. We are shocked that this relatively small defense of Ukraine is standing up to what we thought 3 weeks ago was one of the greatest armies in the world. And what is interesting to me is after they crossed the border, his assumption was in just a couple of days, Kiev would collapse and that would be it. And the opposite turned out to be exactly the truth. Ukraine has stood up and continues to stand up and continues to stand up, and in their standing up, attitudes began to change on Ukraine. Even people that didn't care about Ukraine, like X or Y's or Z's, all kinds of countries, NATO in terms of the speeding the process, of course here in America, but all over the world, a sea change attitude started to take place on support of Ukraine after the invasion began. Putin has turned even the possibility that Finland and Sweden will join NATO because he did it. So as a result, we saw protest develop that became greater than what it was before. And I can't help make the comparison to that's what we're going to see next in Florida. Winter Park High School is an example of it. Safe schools, driving a bus full of students up to the gates of Walt Disney World is an example of it. I am really curious to see in the next coming days and weeks and months, as we see this develop, that there might not be a sea change of this absolutely blow up in Putin's, DeSantis's face. I think that may be coming. I hope so.
I'd like to see it blow up early November.
That would be a good time.
But just before we move on, I don't think you all know there's actually going to be a walkout tomorrow at one of our local schools. Cypress Bay High School is going to be having a walkout 9:30 a.m. and other community members, SunServe, Equality Florida, as well as Yes Institute are going to be there to provide them support. So just so many major snaps to the young people, like you said earlier, like Will, like Maddi, who are out here, and they're doing what they can to show like this is not what we want. And think about it, Cypress Bay is definitely a much more conservative area, and these young people are like, no, we are not going to sit and be silent anymore. So
did you ever, just closing into absolutely in closing this about the protest, did you ever think in your life that you would watch students walking out of class in protest chanting, "Please say gay"?
And wrapped in a gay flag? Never.
Never.
In my lifetime did I think to see that.
But neither did Ron DeSantis, which is why he's pushing this bill.
My comparison to what we're watching in Ukraine, people can't be oppressed. It's not the strategy. You might be successful in short term, but you can't keep it up. You just can't oppress forever. You just can't. LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ+